Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to continue our journey through Path of Lucas. It is such an incredible story and I am really happy to be sharing it with all of you today. Before we begin, please remember to hit that subscribe button below. It really helps me keep bringing these videos to you. Now let's get started. Let us jump right into chapter 28. This chapter opens with a striking image, Lucas standing before a window and watching rain fall on rooftops. He's deeply thinking about Isabel's future care. The opening lines suggest he's about to make a big decision. As the narrative unfolds, we discover what that decision entails. Lucas has quit his job at the carpentry shop. His boss, Mr. Daniels, was understanding of Lucas's personal circumstances. Lucas has made the choice to prioritize Isabel's care. His friend Mark expresses admiration for his commitment. Now fully focused on Isabel's health, Lucas spends long days at the general hospital. He learns the routines of the different wards, the nurses' names, and even the shape of Isabel's illness. He adapts to the hospital environment, becoming the steady presence their family needs. While she's hospitalized, Lucas becomes an expert on Isabel's condition. He faithfully keeps her room neat and orderly, indicating the depth of his devotion. In contrast to the hospital setting, Lucas maintains a careful, comforting routine for the children. They have morning breakfasts together, play familiar pop records, and he ensures they understand that their mother's absence is due to her being very sick, not because of anything they did. Notably, he repeatedly reassures them that Isabel loves them and asks them to pray for her recovery. He explains that sometimes people get sick and don't remember things, but that doesn't mean they stop loving their families. Lucas balances honesty about his wife's condition with age-appropriate reassurance for the children. Meanwhile, medically, the chapter charts a grim period of uncertainty. Drive Jones and the ward team try various antidepressant and antipsychotic regimens while warning Lucas honestly that Isabel may not respond. They explain that after a year without improvement, many patients are institutionalized. Drive Jones privately admits to Lucas that he's losing hope. The possibility of electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, is mentioned as a potential next step if medication fails. As the medical team works to find a solution, Lucas grapples with the emotional toll of his wife's prolonged illness. Despite the bleak moments, Lucas never gives up. He comforts Isabel, sometimes spending nights by her side, weeping quietly as he rocks her. Several months pass during which Isabel stabilizes enough to remain on the ward rather than be institutionalized. There are small windows of lucidity and trust between her and Lucas, but full recovery is uncertain and slow. As Christmas approaches, Lucas experiences moments of doubt, wondering if he should tell his wife about the progress the children are making in school. He decides against it, knowing that overwhelming her with too much information could be counterproductive. Despite the challenges, Lucas remains hopeful. He talks to his parents, who urge him to keep fighting for Isabel. The chapter concludes with Lucas consulting books on holistic medicine, indicating his determination to explore every possible option. Now let us move on to chapter 29. The narrative returns to the present day where we find Lucas beside Lucia's bed. The year is moving toward December. As he shares his life story with his daughter, he feels a change in the atmosphere and believes his grandchildren have arrived. Within the embedded flashback, we see that Isabel is improving incrementally. Under Lucas's careful, repetitive ray exposure to family life, she is calmer, less overtly delusional, and more engaged in therapy sessions with Dr. Jones, who notices her behavioral gains and praises the work Lucas is doing with her. Drive Jones continues to oversee therapy, noticing the incremental improvement and recommending steady, gentle exposure rather than rushed confrontation. To rebuild Isabel's sense of family, Lucas uses a picture cube. He inserts photos of each child and of himself with Isabel and decides to take her Christmas shopping, giving her the specific, tender task of choosing gifts for their children this way. Repeated, pleasant sensory experiences can trigger memory and emotional recognition. In another scene, Lucas explains his plan to his parents. They listen quietly, offering silent encouragement. We see brief glimpses of Lucas shopping, inserting photos, sharing coffee with Lucas's mother, and telling stories about family moments. These scenes underscore the importance of ritual and small restorations rather than dramatic breakthroughs. Isabel listens intently to Lucas's accounts of their past, even when she cannot retrieve those memories herself. The narration presents these moments as careful scaffolding, the slow work that might eventually let memory reign it itself. Throughout this process, Dr. Jones continues to guide therapy sessions, praising Lucas for his patience and the progress they're seeing. The chapter ends with Lucas considering the first, gentle reunion between Isabel and the children, marking a significant step in her recovery journey. Finally, we come to Chapter 30. Once again, we are brought back to the present where Lucas continues to tell his life story to Lucy, hoping that she will regain her memories. Suddenly, he hears voices in the hallway and believes his grandchildren have arrived. This touching scene underlines the importance Lucas places on continuity across generations. During this moment of reflection, Lucas experiences a sharp chest pain. However, after it passes, he continues bargaining with Lucy, promising to finish the story if she will open her eyes. The depth of his love and connection to his daughter shines through in this emotionally charged scene. Within the embedded flashback, we see a striking development. Isabel begins to have small, hopeful flashes of memory during therapy. One session, she describes a wedding vision, recalling being in a wedding dress and holding roses. Drive Jones sees this as a breakthrough. Later, Lucas kisses Isabel for the first time since her illness. This emotional reconnection is a culmination of the progress they've made together. The chapter further emphasizes the power of combining emotional reconnection with carefully timed exposure as a path to recovery. As Christmas nears, Lucas explores the idea of reuniting Isabel with the children. He seeks permission from Dr. Jones to bring her home for a day, marking a significant step in her journey back to their family. Throughout this process, Lucas remains cautious but optimistic. He knows that recovery can be slow and that setbacks are possible. Yet he moves forward steadily, measuring each small success while remaining prepared for any challenges that might come their way. These 3 chapters show the strength of Lucas's character. He faces uncertainty and setbacks with unwavering determination. His commitment to his family, both past and present, drives him to keep fighting for a better outcome for Isabel. As we reflect on these chapters, we are reminded of the power of love, hope, and resilience in the face of adversity. Lucas's story continues to unfold and I, for one, am eagerly anticipating what the next part of their journey holds, and that's a look at chapters 28 to 30 of Path of Lucas. Chapter 31. In 1979, Lucas is 39 years old. He looks at his worn work boots and thinks about how many times they've been patched, sold, or replaced. It's a thought he has often since leaving the cable company. He had to spend all his savings to help Isabel during her illness. But he doesn't regret it. And it's not just because she's healthy now. It's because that hard work with the cables was a dead end. There was no future there, while the logging business, though harder, more dangerous and less money, was something solid, something real. So Lucas went back to his roots, buying brush or wood from farmers near his home, cutting trees and hauling logs to Domtar in Cornwall so his family could get by. The job requires long hours and great physical effort, but also kills less of his spirit than chasing advancement with the cables. And when he comes home at night, he finds a different kind of satisfaction. Life is quieter and humbler than his old dreams, but steadier. The logging business may not make him rich, but it lets him keep his family together. Isabel has returned to her old shoe factory job and continues to manage her depression with medication and careful rest. Lucas worries about her sometimes, always vigilant for small recurrences of her illness. When he sees her slump into fatigue or sink into one of her deep silences, he will rearrange his work week or take a day off to organize the house or help the kids with a project. Slowly, they have rebuilt a domestic routine. And when Lucas comes home from a long haul or a rough week in the woods, he knows that the warmth waiting for him has nothing to do with money. We see the passage of time in snippets and layers. We know the decade has changed because Richard, the eldest, is old enough to drive. He has a girlfriend named Karen, graduated high school and started attending college in Montreal. Richard makes a lot of art and wins contests. Then there's Johnny, at 16, tall and strong, already talking about playing pro football. Johnny is a sports fanatic who dreams about sports cars and trophies. He and Richard, along with some friends, formed a little rock band called the Outlaws. Their music is loud, and their parents wish they'd turn it down. Then there's Steve, the quiet one, who's 14. He is interested in cars and motorcycles and spends a lot of time in the garage fixing up engines. Lucas watches him work and sees himself reflected back, teaching Steve what he knows about automotive skills and hoping his son finds something to hold on to, something solid, something real. And finally, there's Lucy, Lucas's youngest, who at 12 is blossoming into a young woman. She enjoys hanging out with her older brothers and their friends, much to their annoyance. One night, after catching Lucy sneaking into Johnny's room to listen to music, Lucas finds her sitting quietly in a chair. They talk about honesty and trust, and Lucas promises to buy her a car when she turns 16. And in the background, the sound of drums and guitar swells until the music becomes a part of the household. As the chapter closes, we see the everyday family scenes that fill their lives. Richard brings his girlfriend home and everyone gathers to watch the hockey game. Johnny practices free throws against the garage door. Steve learns to drive on back roads. Lucy goes to a party. And Lucas reflects on the passing of time and the blessing of being present for the people he loves. Chapter 32 opens with a line that feels like a summation of everything that has come before. It's summer and Lucy and Chelsea are getting close. They're going shopping together and getting ready for their lives as mothers. Lucas and Isabel are excited to become grandparents and look forward to the new family that will gather around their table. On November 12, 1979, Chelsea gives birth to a baby girl. Richard holds the infant and feels like a man, like he can conquer anything. At the hospital, Isabel watches her daughter hold the new baby and feel the circle of life pulsing between them. Lucas drives home alone, thinking about how lucky they are. That evening, he tells Isabel that their family will never be complete until she passes on to the next generation. Back home, Richard plays with Paige. Johnny runs to tell Lucas that Santa has arrived early. Isabel and Lucas smile at each other, grateful for the sounds of family echoing in their house. As Christmas approaches, Isabel starts decorating. She puts up the tree and brings out the ornaments. Soon the house is filled with lights and tinsel and the smell of pine. On Christmas Eve, the family attends church with Elizabeth. Then they return home to open their presents. Isabel hands out the gifts she and Lucas have prepared. Richard receives art supplies and photography equipment. Johnny gets sports gear. Steve gets tools. Lucy gets clothes and makeup. Later, after the children have gone home, Lucas and Isabel stand by the tree surrounded by the remnants of wrapping paper and ribbons. They are full of contentment and love. In the days leading up to Christmas, Lucas and Isabel prepare food for their visitors. John and his friend Gail arrive first, followed by Joe, then Lucy with her boyfriend, Billy. There are awkward moments and tentative conversations, but mostly there's laughter and catching up. The guests are tired and soon go to bed. Lucas shows John his oxygen tank and jokes about making oxygen cocktails. John smiles. The family wakes up on Christmas morning and gathers for a communal supper later that day. John is tired, his face pale. He sits by Grandma Isabel's side while she feeds him. When their meal is over, the adults clear the table and let the children play. Joe mentions that John isn't looking well. Cirrhosis has worsened his health. Lucas nods. He knows there's nothing more his brother can do. Before long, John's relatives arrive. John greets them with a smile. As the night wears on, the family grows boisterous. Everyone laughs and talks. John's sons help set up a karaoke machine, and soon the entire family is singing along to old tunes. John watches them from his chair, smiling. Paige sleeps by Grandma Isabel's side. Lucas glances at his brother and sees the great-granddaughter cradled in John's arms. John looks happy. Later, after most of the guests have gone home, Lucas and Isabel stand by the window watching the last few stragglers drive away. The road is dark now and the only light comes from the stars above. Chapter 33 opens with a single line. Death is always waiting. On June 10, 1993, Isabel suffers a massive heart attack. She is taken to Cornwall Hospital where doctors try to revive her. Lucas arrives soon after. His daughter, Chelsea, is with him. As the nurses hurry around the room, Lucas notices a monarch butterfly fluttering at the window. He points it out to Chelsea and she smiles faintly. A few moments later, the doctor comes out of the examination room and tells Lucas that Isabel is gone. The butterfly is still there, perched on the curtain. He watches it for a moment, then slowly moves toward the room where his wife lies. The nurse tells him she's still there for a few moments if he wants to say goodbye. Lucas enters the room and steps forward to the bedside. He gently touches her hand and bends down to kiss her forehead. Outside, the butterfly joins a rose-breasted grosbeak perched on the window ledge. They stare at each other for a moment, then suddenly the grosbeak takes flight. The butterfly follows. Lucas hears their wings beating the air and turns back to his wife. Tears stream down his face and he tries to call his children. No words come out. Only a strangled cry. The family gathers silently in the hospital chapel. They listen to the priest speak of Isabel's life and legacy. Afterward, Lucas tells his children about the butterfly and the bird. They flew away together, he says, just like they did when Grandma died. They all look at the floor, unable to speak. As they leave the hospital, Lucas drives his sons and daughters to his parents' house. They sit quietly in the car until they reach the front porch. Then Lucas turns to his children and whispers, "Thank you for coming." Chapter 34. Lucas sits at Lucy's bedside in a room that feels both impossibly small and full of memory. As he stares at his motionless daughter, he is flooded by the fresh ache of other losses, the quiet, unbearable recall of having already buried a son. Richard, and the thought that he cannot face losing another child tightens his chest. The narration lingers on the physical stillness of Lucy, the steady and out of breath, the thin hospital gown, the pale hands he holds. Lucas listens for life in the little things, and finds himself bargaining with the room itself. Voices approach in the hallway, family returning. The sound of footsteps and muffled conversation, and in that instant Lucas feels a tiny electric sign, a squeeze in Lucy's hand. He brightens with instant, almost boyish hope and speaks to her aloud, coaxing and pleading, asking her to squeeze once more so he can finish the story he's been telling her. The moment is both intimate and public. He talks to steady himself and to hold a thread of continuity between the bed and all that came before. The chapter then widens its lens to family rhythms and rites of passage that keep threading life forward. A cold, snowy funeral for Lucas's father is described with quiet dignity, the pallbearers, the hush of a chapel. The grandchildren carrying the casket at John's request, and the book uses that ceremonial weight to show how the family gathers, mourns, and then, stubbornly, moves on. Not long after, Joy returns in a different register. Lucy goes into labor and, on February 10th, gives birth to a healthy baby boy Daniel. The new life is placed against the grief already present in TH household, showing how endings and beginnings often live very close together. Finally, the chapter closes on small restorations. Spring arrives, the family coalesces around infants and meals and ordinary domestic steadiness. Visits, shared supper, the slow repair of routine becomes its own kind of salvation after the hard winter of losses. The prose emphasizes presence and the small, repetitive acts holding babies, shared jokes at the table that keep a family from fracturing. Chapter 35. Chapter 35 opens in the same hospital room, but with that little miracle of contact widening into a family scene. Grandchildren stream in. Calling grandpa, hugs are exchanged. There is the earthy, astringent mixture of tears and relief as 5 generations stand clustered around Lucy's bed. Lucas moves from embrace to embrace, steadying each visitor and giving space for private grief inside the communal moment. Then, as Mark sits and clasps Lucy's hand, a second clearer squeeze travels up his arm. The room catches its breath. One by one the sons feel it. Excitement and hope ripple through them as they watch Lucy's eyes begin to twitch as if the long, locked door of her consciousness is being nudged. The scene is written as a careful, reverent crescendo, tiny touches and held breath turning toward a possible return. But the book does not let the reader forget how fragile these gains are. In the middle of this fragile hope, the narrative records an abrupt, tragic blow. Lucas collapses in the hospital hallway with a massive heart attack. Medical staff work on him urgently, but despite their efforts, he cannot be revived. The doctor and nurses, themselves exhausted and solemn, must go into Lucy's room and deliver the terrible news that her father has just died. The prose treats this with blunt, humane restraint. The practical, awful language of a doctor's apology sits beside Lucy's stunned grief, even inside that rupture. The book slides toward one of its recurring consolations, signs and small miracles, as Lucy hears the news and grieves. She notices nature at the window. A monarch butterfly fluttering above to rose-breasted grosbeaks on the sill, and interprets the sight as a tenderness from the dead, a suggestion that those she has lost are together again. That vision loosens something in her. It becomes the hinge that allows a sudden recovery. The following week, Lucy's improvement surprises the doctors. She finds the strength to stand at her father's funeral and read the eulogy she had written. The chapter ends on this complicated mixture of rupture and repair, a funeral held words spoken aloud, and a family piecing meaning from the bittersweet continuity of loss and memory. Thanks for listening.